All right, good morning, second grade students. Today for language arts, we are going to be looking at determining the themes of myths, fables, and folk tales. All right, so first off, we are going to be looking at what is a myth. So what kind of a story is considered a myth? So a myth is a story often describing the adventures of beings, so something with more than human powers that attempts to explain mysterious events or that explains a religious belief or practice. So some examples of myths would be like King Midas and the Golden Touch. So King Midas is a made-up person, and in the story, whatever he touches turns to gold. Now, that is something that is beyond our human powers. I mean, it would be really cool if we could turn anything into gold, but unfortunately, we can't do that. And so that's why this story is categorized under a myth, because this person, first off, is made up. And second of all, what he is able to do is something that goes beyond our human powers that we can do. Another example of a myth would be the Minotaur. And again, with this one, this is a made-up being. So this time it's not a made-up person, but an animal. And so this is one that you can read on your own as well. So basically with myths, it's a story with made-up people or animals or objects that are able to do things beyond our human abilities, or it is trying to explain a religious belief or a practice in a religious belief. All right, next up is what is a fable? So a fable is a short tale, so a short story, to teach a moral, and a moral is telling someone like right from wrong. So it teaches a moral lesson, often with animals or inanimate objects, so something that is not alive as the characters. So one example would be like Aesop's Fables. So this is one that you may have heard of, you may have even read. But the one that comes to my mind right away, and probably many of you have heard of or have even read, is The Tortoise and the Hare, where in that story we assume that the hare is going to beat the tortoise because a hare is faster than a turtle is. And so with fables, most of the time they're trying to teach us morals and good character, and trying to teach us just right from wrong. And then last up is what is a folktale? And many of you probably know many folktales. So a folktale is a story originating in popular culture, so in many different types of cultures, and they're typically passed on by word of mouth. So your parents may tell you stories from the past, and your grandparents may do the same, or aunts or uncles or cousins. So basically these are stories that are sometimes written down, but many of them are passed down through generations by word of mouth. So like your grandma or your grandpa would have told your mom or dad a story, and then they will tell you the story by word of mouth. And then when one day you have kids and grandkids, you will tell those stories to them as well. So some examples of Apache folktales would be the book The Flute Player and also Antelope Woman. So these ones were written down into a book, but they are still considered to be Apache folk tales. All right, so let's look at an example here from IXL of a question that you might see. So let's read through this together. It was summer, the air was warm, the grass was green, and there was plenty of food. Every day, Grasshopper slept in the sun, played in the grass, and filled his belly. One day, some little ants walked by with heavy loads on their backs. Grasshopper asked them what they were doing. One ant told Grasshopper that they were storing food for winter. "But it's summer now," said Grasshopper. "There is plenty of food." The ants simply went back to work. Grasshopper chewed on some grass. Then he took a nap. That winter, the air grew cold. The grass turned gray. There was no food around, and Grasshopper hadn't stored any. The ants had stored plenty of food, so they got to eat while Grasshopper was weak and hungry. Grasshopper wished he had worked more during the summer. So the question is asking us, what is the lesson of this fable? Is it have as much fun as you can before winter comes, or it is good to plan ahead so you'll be prepared later? So what is the lesson of this fable? So we know that the lesson is it is good to plan ahead so you'll be prepared later. Now this top one, have as much fun as you can before winter comes, that's what Grasshopper did, but the lesson in this fable is that if you don't want to grow hungry and weak, you should prepare when you have the time and when the resources are there for you. All right, and that is our lesson for today.